Did you ever think why our sweetest songs are those which tell of our saddest thoughts? Why sadness inspires great art?
Another day has gone. I'm still all
And why we feel some sort of joy in sadness? Sadness seems like an inescapable aspect of human existence. But can this be right? Surely what people want is to be happy. Whole philosophies rest on the premise that more happiness is always and everywhere a good thing. The Dalai Lama, along with others such as Aristotle, Saint Augustine, and Pascal, all have gone to the extent of saying that the purpose of human life is to be happy. Certainly, this is a good question to ask. Is the purpose of human existence merely to pursue happiness? Perhaps we should first ask what makes us happy in the first place. Researchers believe much of what we believe about the causes and sources of happiness simply isn't true. Of course, when money lifts our burdens of material deficiencies, it increases our happiness dramatically. However, once we have our basic needs met, more money doesn't seem to buy more happiness. Beyond that point, we are on a hedonic treadmill, dreaming about new things and fantasies which once achieved only temporarily satisfy us. Unfortunately, the boost of happiness doesn't last long. That's when the cycle continues and we start dreaming about new things to fill the void temporarily yet again.
The point is, ladies and gentlemen, that greed, for lack of a better word, is good. Greed is right. Greed works.
Happiness becomes directly attached to our desires. We believe in a happy tomorrow. We remain in a constant search for that happiness which perpetually recedes before us, year by year, day by day, until one day the next generation comes. They pursue even faster to avoid being eluded like their predecessors. They stretch their arms farther, so they beat on, rowing against the current, fading away ceaselessly into the past. As we strive, our economic growth goes up, our income multiplies, amenities, comfort, and luxuries become a norm. Yet happiness declines or stays constant. The use of antidepressants skyrocket and suicide rates go off chart. The question is why some kind of sadness and mental pain is intrinsic to our psychology. There are two reasons for this. One, every person is born with a knowing pain in the soul resulting from a disconnection from the ultimate reality. Our tragic condition is such that we have been so distracted by material pleasure that we have lost the ability to see our spiritual self. This is why people are generally unhappy. They try to relieve this pain in the soul through physical pleasure, which cannot relieve the pain that is essentially spiritual. The only solution is a pleasure that comes from self-knowledge. And the second reason for our sadness is that we are told from young age that the way to be a competent, good, and successful person is to make a lot of money. We are tuned to look for happiness and joy in material means, totally ignoring the spiritual dimension of our existence. We only limit ourselves to mediocre ways of feeling high and thrilled. This leads to developing a hedonistic, survival of the fittest mindset, resulting in selfishness that reaches the level of callousness, cruelty, and abuse of others' rights with no remorse whatsoever. But once we move to the spiritual emotions of gratitude, compassion, caring, and worrying about the well-being of others, we become aware of our own essence beyond our physical and psychological form. We care about something bigger than ourselves. We transcend our own life and our own death by caring about the things bigger than ourselves. It sounds good, but the question is, how do we do it? Psychologists such as Sonia Lubomirsky, a professor of psychology at University of California, tell us that they begin with asking people to write 5 things for which they are grateful. They found that those who counted their blessings just once a week became happier. They also asked people to do acts of kindness, which turned out to be the most effective way to making people feel happy. Instead of engaging in some random acts of kindness, there must be a systematic, organized way to practicing gratitude, compassion, and caring, and also doing good deeds. Modern psychology concludes that there are 2 types of value systems or goals: intrinsic and extrinsic. Extrinsic goals are focused on something external. They are focused on rewards, praise, and material possessions. The 3 main examples of extrinsic goals are money, image, and status or popularity. Intrinsic goals, on the other hand, are inherently satisfying in and of themselves because they deal with intrinsic psychological needs that we have by nature. The examples of these goals are personal growth, having close connected relationships, and the desire to help and make the world a better place. Intrinsic and extrinsic goals are in complete opposition to each other. Research suggests that people whose values center on accumulation of wealth and material possessions face a greater risk of unhappiness, including anxiety, depression, low self-esteem, and also problems with intimacy, regardless of age, income, or culture. On the other hand, those who are intrinsically motivated are happier, more secure, and free. We'll discuss these goals in detail and explore the concept of tranquility and contentment in the next several parts of this series. Because knowing which value system is best for lasting happiness is one thing, how to live those values is totally another.
A simple act of kindness saved me. A simple act of kindness.
Without a way of life, random acts of kindness, charity, and service to humanity alone don't have the desired impact. Here, we will simply touch on how the Quran provides guidance for a specific way of life. This way of life ensures that its followers are not only devoting their lives to the intrinsic goals, but also benefiting from the deeper impact of their good deeds. And this happens in the form of having peace of mind, contentment of the heart, and an overall happiness throughout their lives. First, the Quran systematically and repeatedly emphasized the message that the life of this world is but amusement. It's nothing more than diversion, adornment, boasting to one another, and competition, and increase of wealth and properties. By repeating exactly the same message at least 10 times, the Quran closes the doors to even entertaining the idea of pursuing extrinsic goals. If we as believers ignore this specific message, that's our problem, and we definitely reap the consequences of spending our lives on a hedonic treadmill, which is the number one enemy of happiness. After closing the doors to indulging in extrinsic goals, the Quran strongly commands and adds incentives for setting up and living by intrinsic goals. The explicit command to do good deeds is repeated no less than 18 times in the Quran. And to help and support poor and orphans at least 20 times each. After belief, together, these commands make doing good deeds and serving humanity as the purpose of a believer's life. Happiness thus becomes a byproduct of this purpose, because this fulfills the intrinsic psychological needs that all people have. In this series, we'll be focusing on how Islam presents a complete framework and a way of life that goes far beyond temporal happiness towards tranquility and contentment, and their role in deep personal transformation and self-actualization.